Welcome, slow traveler. You've found your way here to the soft edges of thought and the almost forgotten cadence of gentleness. The kettle has not yet begun to sing. The window is open the smallest crack, just enough to let a small sigh of morning air drift through the cabin. Outside, the mist gathers at the edge of the woods, blurring everything into shapes softer than dreams. This is the slow world. Here, in the hush between night and tomorrow, the rhythm of a different life begins. A tea bag waits in a chipped white mug. Fingers trace the rim, feeling its slight nick. Feet rest on old wood. Wallpaper peels, but the corners stay kind. The silence here is not empty. It's full, full of everything the ordinary world forgets. You don't have to do anything. Not tonight, not ever, not here. Let everything grow soft, the blankets, your thoughts, the pulse in your chest. Imagine the slow, sacred life of Alan Watts, famous for ideas, yes, but tonight we don't care for ideas. Just the gentle act of boiling water, the mundane magic of steam rising in a tiny house wrapped in fir trees and memory. The modern mystic is just the name of a channel. Tonight, you're safe with the slowest storyteller you've ever almost heard. Let me be your background, a friend draped in quiet, walking with you through the fog. He waited by the window, nothing happened, and that was enough. The tiniest glow presses through the mist outside. No rush, only the pulse and the kettle and breath. Welcome to this groundless, peaceful boredom, where you can rest as the story folds itself around you, slow as honey drizzled drop by drop. It's not a documentary. It's a ritual of remembrance, a bath for the soul, drawn in gentle water. Everything in this world, even the boredom, is sacred. There is a hush here, quieter than even the gentle ticking of a clock left too long in the same sun-soaked corner. You are safe now. You have stumbled to the doorway of a small wooden cabin in the fog, and nothing is expected of you, not tonight. The air is thick with silence, a living thing. Welcome in the quietest way you've ever been welcomed, nothing asked, no words to rehearse, just a sinking in. The floorboards sigh under your weight, the way bones settle into soft blankets. I am here just to walk with you as the sky folds itself inward and dusk brushes the world with patience. Let's step inside together. The cabin is neither grand nor forgotten, it is simply here. Leave your shoes by the door. There is a chipped kettle on a little stove and an empty chair. The windows are rimmed in grey, cool with the dew of waking dreams, and beyond them, only trees and fog. This hour is for resting your mind, for listening. There is no story, not really, only the rhythm of things as they are. Alan Watts once lived here, though his presence is less a memory than a feeling in the floor, a softness in the way the curtains breathe. Tea leaves rest in a tin on the shelf. Steam curls, slow and modest, rising from a pot that's only just begun to hum. Every sound is deliberate. The quiet creak of the wooden walls, the faint heartbeat of rain against the roof. Here in the easy stillness, nothing hurries. Nothing breaks the gentle repetition of being alive. Your thoughts are feathers drifting. The kettle is a small sun in the gloom, Glowing, he waited by the window. The spoon clinked against the cup. Nothing happened, and that was enough. You made it here to this quiet place at the edge of night, where the modern mystic lets the world drip away. Tonight we begin slow. No teaching, no urgency, just stillness. You are invited, as you are, to let your mind rest, to find shelter in these words, a soft fog curling around you, gentle and unhurried. We wander into Alan Watts' old cabin, somewhere in the folds of memory, with nothing on our backs but comfort. If you listen close, you can almost hear the kettle before it boils, before the day really starts. The hush of wooden floors, a chair's slow sigh. We step together, barefoot on cold boards, and wait for the ordinary to tell its quiet story. Your breath comes softer here. The cabin holds you as kindly as it did him. Together we will do nothing, just enough. A safe boredom, a sacred stillness. The kettle hasn't whistled yet, and we don't rush it. Pull a blanket around your shoulders, let the night settle. There's room, there's time. Tonight there is no lesson, only a slow remembering. The rain taps the roof, the mug is empty, waiting by the stove. The window glass glows with the first hint of dawn. Nothing happens, and that is enough. Under low light, as the slow hush of night curls in, you find yourself somewhere familiar, but softer. Welcome to the modern mystic, where rest is the invitation, and your soul lingers on the edge of knowing. It's late or it's early, the world doesn't mind. You've pressed play as you have before, and so you are here. That's everything you need to do. Just let the weight of the sheets settle, feel the mattress beneath you. Tonight we drift together to a cabin. It isn't far if you let your breath lead the way. Somewhere in the damp hush of a wooded evening, Alan Watts is boiling water. Steam curls and glass fogs. Here the world is old in some corners and brand new in others. A kettle sits waiting, a cup, half remembered, waits for warmth. There are no bells, no one to impress, just the slow, ongoing quiet, like fog rolling on a steady lake. Soften your shoulders, relax your jaw, nothing is expected here. Here is where thought drifts, lagging behind breath. The cabin is small, walls thick with wood, windows catching early dew. The table is patient. Lantern light crawls over the plank floor. Even the dust moves slower, as if it knows you are watching. Outside, something stirs, wind, perhaps, or a pale branch touching glass. There are no arguments in this story, just water and waiting, just old tea leaves remembering sunlight. This is your invitation. Linger here a moment longer. Let the simplicity wash in and cover your bones. The world outside can wait. Tonight we move slower than your sleepiest thought. Alan waits and the kettle waits, and so you are allowed to wait too. Breathe. Nothing will begin before you're ready. He waits by the window, steam rises quietly. Tonight I'm glad you're here. It matters that you showed up, that you found your way to this quiet room. The world outside keeps moving, cars in the distance, clocks circling their small rounds, but here only the hush. Here there is space. There is nothing you need to do, not now, not in this hour meant for mending, for drifting, letting go. You've come to the modern mystic. There's warmth waiting. Beneath everything that comes and goes, there is a pulse of peace, slow, patient, steady. I invite you softly to settle back. Maybe draw your knees under a worn quilt. Let your hands rest. Let your jaw unclench. This is a place where shadows are soft and every pause is a kind of kindness. We'll wander together tonight, gently, into the life behind a simple act. Boiling water in Alan Watts' cabin. Not preaching, not remembering facts, just letting the details pool in a slow, human rhythm. The way boiling water fogs the glass, the dull ache in wooden floorboards, the sigh of a kettle before it sings. There's nothing to chase here, nothing to figure out. Every exhale is a quiet invitation. Let your thoughts slow. If you wander, that's all right. The story will wait. Night forgives all drifting. And in that forgiveness, you might just discover the beauty of mundane moments, a mug round with heat, the shuffle of slippers across a dusty board. He waited by the window. The minutes stretch, soft and long. There's no hurry here, none at all. If your eyes grow heavier, let them close. This story is shaped for that quiet between waking and dreaming. You are more than welcome. You are home. The day is still somewhere above, but here the night settles like a blanket. Alan's kettle is on the stove. Light pools through the cabin. And you, dear friend, are exactly where you belong. Nothing happened, and that was enough. Welcome to this quiet hour. The lamp's glow fading gently near. The night holds you here on the edge of dreams. There is time for everything and nothing at all. You are safe to let go now. This is the modern mystic. You and I together, sitting in the hush, waiting for the story to fold itself around you. Breathe, let the shadowed corners rest. There's a kettle on an old stove, sighing out warmth. Somewhere, Alan Watts walks on wooden floorboards. Rain ticks against the window pane. A hush threads through the cabin, weaving ancient dust and tender thoughts. You're not expected to listen or remember. You are only here, here to be held inside the slow, ordinary patterns of someone's quiet life. He waited by the window in Alan's cabin. The world grows slower. You might feel your heart beat slow to the hush of the place. Let your thoughts loosen, untangling against the way the steam curls above a mug. There's bread on the counter, seeds scattered on the wood. Paper curls at the corners on the desk, faint scrawlings. Outside, fog presses its palms to the glass, wanting nothing. Light pools at the floor, moving no faster than you need it to tonight. All is quiet beauty, is boredom, is breath. Nothing happens. The world keeps going, and that's enough. He set the kettle over the flame outside. Nothing cries for attention. The night air presses softly against stone and wood, quieting the world until just the whisper of water and the thrum of blood are left. Secret music, known to sleepers and the moon. In the soft hush between day and whatever comes after, you find yourself here with me at the rim of Alan Watts' old cabin. It's nothing special, this place. Not at first. The porch slouches with age. Paint peels like paper from the thin wood door. Shadows gather around the steps, patient and unhurried, as if holding their breath. Down the hill, fog curls in blue knots across the valley, veiling what never needed to be known. Overhead, the sky stays close, full and worn. Tonight, you're invited in, not for conversation or ceremony, but for what it is, this moment, a place to loosen the day's grip. Inside the cabin, stillness grows in corners, gently touched by the fine dust of memory. You don't need to know anything, not facts, not arrivals, not even the shape of what waits. The kettle's promise always lingers before the flame. Sit, let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let the pace fall away like a coat left at the door. Alan Watts' cabin is just a room, a kettle, hands on cold tin, the murmur of something beginning. You are here because you wandered far enough to finally stop. Because sometimes the only story we need is this one. Let's start with the morning that never rushes. Wait here, by the window, where the mist leans in. Welcome to the modern mystic. You're safe here outside. The world is soft and shadowed, fog resting on the hillside, lake reeds bending beneath still air. It is quiet. The night has set, but you are not alone. Here, in a small wooden cabin cradled by cypress and laurel, we meet together. The kettle is cold. The teacup waits, dry and waiting. Alan Watts was not in a hurry. Neither are we. Everything can happen, or nothing can happen, and both will be enough. He sits by the window, mist presses against the glass, the soft grain of the table under his hand. This story is not for learning, but for resting, for letting your mind wander as water boils, as the ordinary wraps itself around you. In this slow biography, boredom is a kindness. Mundane beauty is the highest prayer, so come in, unbutton your coat. Sink into the gentle hush of the cabin here beside me. Alan's kettle silent, the kettle spores unclicked, the world holding its breath. There's nowhere to be except right here, listening, feeling the air. He watched his hand on the table. The lamp hummed in the corner. There is nothing you need to do. Just rest your mind by the door and come as you are. Because even a man who pondered the cosmos sometimes just sat with steam, with a chipped mug, and called it enough. Let's begin slowly, with nothing urgent except an invitation to slow down. You are allowed to be, nothing more. That is the welcome. Tonight you're here. Welcome to the modern mystic, where nothing is rushed, where the ordinary is sacred, and even water boiling in an old kettle carries the weight of 1,000 quiet evenings. There's time here for soft mornings, for the flicker of light through a window, for the sound of rain on a shingled roof. There's time for you. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be fixed. There's only the gentle promise of now, of sitting beside an old wooden counter in a cabin nestled among tall trees, where Alan Watts once breathed in the cool dawn. The world hushes here. The white fog lingers by the window pane. The kettle has not yet begun to sing. If you need to, take off your shoes. Lay down heavy things. There will be no drama tonight. There will be room to rest and to wait. You are not alone. The old wood of the cabin remembers. It creaks as you settle in. He waited by the window. Let the air wrap around you like a woolen blanket. In silence, in slowness, you'll remember the beauty of a life lived with only the smallest ambitions. To taste, to see, to be warmed by the cup in your hands. Let's begin in Alan Watts' cabin before the world wakes as water waits to boil. Welcome. Just let yourself slide into this soft slowness. You're here, and there's nothing to be now but here. The day folds its arms around you, tired and gentle. You are in the hush between tasks, in that subtle quiet after the kettle clicks off on the modern mystic. And tonight, you'll rest inside the small hush of Alan Watts' cabin, listening to water, waiting to boil. Heat curling upward, fog at your feet, indigo dusk melting behind old window glass. This isn't a lesson. There are no secrets to unlock. It's only water, only wood, only the simple waiting for the world to warm you. So come in slowly, mind the step. The kettle is never in a hurry, and neither are we. The old wood beneath your feet is still. Even the shadows rest. The cabin knows your name, and tonight it calls you to let go. He waited by the window. The air is thick with wood smoke and breath, as if the world itself sighs in relief. Alan sits, or maybe you do, or maybe someone long ago. It doesn't matter. Only the hush matters now, the sound of water thinking. The spoon clinked against the cup. If you listen carefully, you hear your own heart slow down. The day doesn't need to be fixed. You are already forgiven. The night is a wide, old coat you can wrap around your shoulders. Shoelaces undone. Kettle half full. All that matters is the now of the waiting. He waited by the window. Let yourself grow slow. Let yourself grow slow. Morning in the dim light, the world isn't awake yet. There's a gauzy softness to the hour, a hush that feels like velvet. Alan's cabin sits patient among the trees, each floorboard cool underfoot, each window breathing out a cloud of yesterday's chill. He walks the narrow path from cot to kettle, slippered feet padding against old wood, a rhythm as ancient as waking itself. He waited by the window. There's no ceremony, not really. Just Alan's hand reaching for the chipped enamel kettle, fingertips finding the smooth etched handle. He fills it under the rusty tap, water cold and glinting, sun barely pressing through linen curtains, moths still resting in their corners. The spoon clinked against the cup. He listens, not just to the kettle, but to the silence that arrives before the day truly begins. The birds aren't quite ready to sing. Even the clocks hold back their ticking, as if honoring the slow unfolding. Alan stands in the light, blinked by indifference, his gaze soft on the steam rising. Nothing to do, really, simply being. Rain against the roof is a gentle hand, tapping out the patterns of another ordinary day. He waited by the window, and so the morning passes through him, quiet, unhurried. Just water, just heat, just breath between thoughts. At the edge of sleep, the world feels kind and infinitely slow. Habits, some lives are built on ceremony. Alan's is built on rhythm. The way he folds his shirts, the slipper sound across the flagstones. The way the cabin holds each memory, letting dust settle in corners, never bothering to chase it away. There is ritual, but not of religion, of living, of being half awake before the first cup of tea. He waited by the window. He lets the water hum in the kettle. It's not a song, not quite, more a soft reminder of all the days before. He spoons loose tea into the old metal strainer, palm open, each leaf falling like a memory. The table is cluttered but not messy, papers like fallen petals, pen with its cap missing, a half-written note he never meant to finish. He likes the mess. He likes the life in it. Every morning the same breath. Every morning a little heat, a little steam. The spoon clinked against the cup. He stands, watching the sun trace lines across a chipped saucer. Warmth seeps into the wood, and Alan lets it linger, not hurrying forward, not hurrying at all. Even the clocks seem to approve. Time is simply the distance between one cup of tea and the next. He waited by the window, scraps of silence scattered like crumbs. The kettle hums. He waits, nothing to do but breathe. Silent watching some mornings, Alan remembers the way as a child he'd watch his father pack a pipe, careful hands steady, the room filled with grey curls, or the cat that prowled the fence, dissolving into evening fog. Early influences drift like ghosts, quiet gestures, glances, the way a grown man sighs into his chair as dusk arrives. He waited by the window. Alan learned to watch, to listen for what wasn't said. Behind each closed door, a small hum of tension or comfort or longing. The world would shift its shoulders, reshaping itself to fit the hour. Outside, dew on grass. Inside, the scrape of a chair leg, a cough, a whispering kettle. The most useful lessons came without words. The beauty in small tasks, the dignity in waiting for the right moment to light the stove, to tie a shoe, to sip a cool glass of water on a hot afternoon. The spoon clinked against the cup. Alan learned patience not as a virtue, but as a way of being. Water only boils if left alone long enough. Thought only settles if not disturbed. He loved the smallness of the world, the rain in the gutter, the dust in the drawer, the slow way a shadow darkens. He waited by the window all his life. He watched, quietly, openly, gently. The world, in turn, offered up its tired, beautiful face. First sparks there's a moment, sometimes soft as the echo of a dropped glove, where a small desire stirs. For Alan, it was the dream of understanding water, not with science, but with attention. He wondered what it was to simply notice the world as it is, the slowness of a cup cooling beside the stove, the heavy comfort of wool socks on a winter floor. He wanted to be the sort of person who could wait, who could honor the ritual of boiling water. He waited by the window. His spark wasn't ambition in the typical sense, no yearning for applause, no desperate reach for greatness. Just an ache to tune in, to grow slow enough to catch the smallest shift in light, in weather, in soul. He let this curiosity settle like leaves in a pot of tea. The more he noticed, the more the world opened up, not with answers, but with long, inarticulate questions. Why does silence taste like honey once you grow used to it? Why does waiting soothe the skin? The spoon clinked against the cup. His desire never spoke loudly. It moved beneath, beside, a sneaky presence, like a draft at the door. The call to slowness can be a rebellion against too much living, too much noise. He waited by the window. He let his days shape him gently and surrendered to the slow pull of boiling water. Turning points aren't always grand. For Alan, it was a slow reconciling. The day he realized that boiling water could mean the difference between anxiety and peace. A simple act, over and over, smoothing the edges of a jagged world. Each boil a boundary, a soft reset. He stopped resisting the dull ache of boredom. He welcomed it. He began to teach with his presence more than his mind. He waited by the window. The cabin became his vessel, the kettle his bell, the waiting his teacher. Even on days when restlessness gnawed at the corners of the room, Alan poured himself back into the ritual. He learned that clarity, when it comes, is like steam rising quietly into morning air, not a burst, but a gentle release. The more he leaned into the ordinary, the more it revealed itself as sacred. The spoon clinked against the cup. He walked slower, breathed slower, let visitors fill the cabin with their own whispers, but never broke the spell of waiting. Patience became his home. He waited by the window. The turn was inward, not outward, and it was enough. Defining objects, some keep photographs, some keep rings. Alan's sacred object was always the kettle. Heavy, round, battered by years of use. Its handle darkened by 1,000 mornings, its belly dimpled, its spout pouring nothing but warmth. The kettle held not just water, but memory. Laughter in the half-light, loneliness drawn close like a shawl, hope rising with the first wisp of steam. He waited by the window. When Alan left or returned, it was always the kettle he checked first. Did it still work? Was it clean, empty, or half full? He loved the way the metal changed colors, blue, copper, gray, each a record of different fires, different seasons. The kettle tethered him to the world, a humble anchor in the current of days. The spoon clinked against the cup. It was more than just a tool. It was a companion, a steady presence that never judged, never hurried, never demanded. In its whistle or its hush, Alan heard the voice of calm. Its song was always the same. Wait, and you will be warmed. He waited by the window. The kettle, like Alan, was ordinary and sacred at once, and that was enough. The day, a full day in Alan's cabin, moves like syrup, slow and sweet. He wakes before dawn, lets his feet find the grain of cool floorboards. Mist clings at the windows. He opens the door, lets in a thread of damp pine. The world is very gentle in the hour before the sun remembers its task. He waited by the window. The kettle is first, always first. Water runs, echoing in the little sink. He measures tea leaves, watches them relax in the strainer. He sits, sometimes writing, mostly just watching the way the wind moves through old curtains. Meals are simple, bread cut thick, butter melting into its cracks. Lunch is almost always soup, the broth catching light in his favorite bowl. By afternoon, he moves to the worn armchair, watching shadows inch along the wall, telling time in the slowest way. The spoon clinked against the cup of visitors come sometimes. They take off their coats and leave them in a pile near the stove. They are offered tea, silence, or a listening ear. Alan doesn't rush. He lets people enter the quiet with him, lets them discover the comfort of not needing to fill every space with words. Evening comes gently. The kettle boils one last time. Books are closed, socks discarded. The day folds up, tired but full. He waited by the window, nothing happened, and that was enough. Struggles, Alan's peace was often borrowed, never bought. Inside, he carried a strange loneliness, a longing to be held by something bigger than thought, a hunger for quiet he couldn't always feed. Even in stillness, worry buzzed like a trapped fly. Was he wasting time? Was he missing some hidden calling? The world's noise sometimes found its way through the cabin walls. He waited by the window. He grew weary of being needed, of being wise. There were days when he let meals grow cold, let letters go unanswered, let the kettle whistle too long on the stove. These struggles he rarely shared. Shame, soft, grey, persistent, crept in at dusk, whispering doubts through the keyhole. He met his own low moments with the same ritual as his high ones, the waiting, the brewing, the forgiveness of another cup. The spoon clinked against the copper pane, became a dull kettle, present, undramatic. Over time, it too was made sacred by routine, by acceptance, by letting it be just another thing to wait through. He waited by the window. Rest was hard won, and always, always worth the longing. How they felt those drawn to Alan's orbit found themselves softened. In his presence, the world felt less sharp-edged, less insistent. Visitors left their busy thoughts by the door, found their voices dropping to a whisper, their hearts slowing to match his own steady pace. Room for their own worries, always, and room, too, to lay them down for a spell. He waited by the window, some felt seen, others urged gently to see themselves. Sometimes he offered a story, but more often he offered only the comfort of standing still in a patch of light. Friends marveled not at what he said, but at how he listened, how he let the kettle boil before pouring the tea, how he honored the pause between question and answer as something whole in itself. The spoon clinked against the cup. Alan created space, not with philosophy, but with being. He brought the rare gift of permission to slow down, to be unfinished, to rest. He waited by the window in the hush of his company. Others learned to hush themselves. Slowing down life, like water, heats and cools with its own strange timing. Alan's later years were not a retreat, but an invitation to more slowness. The days grew heavier, steps softened. The body forgot its old quicksilver energy, demanded longer sleep, shorter walks, but the kettle remained. The ritual, if anything, deepened, enacted with a touch more tenderness, a touch less urgency. He waited by the window, afternoons stretched out, as if the sun, too, was reluctant to move on. Alan napped more, grew fond of the feel of cool sheets against his skin. the sound of the clock refusing to hurry. Meals grew quieter, letters shorter. There was a peace in paring away. The spoon clinked against the cup, still, always the kettle, still, always the waiting. The windows forever fogged. He allowed the world to move around him, growing quieter, kinder only by letting it all slow into acceptance. He waited by the window at the end. Peace was not won, but allowed, accepted like steam drifting invisible into night. Goodbye if you are here now, drifting, breathing. You are exactly right. Nothing more is required. Let the hush hold you like a breath held soft between sips of tea. Imagine Alan waiting by the window. Imagine the steam rising, the day filtering out through the branches, darkness settling over the quiet room. The kettle cools beside the stove, the last warmth folding into the hush between heartbeats. He waited by the window, and so, let your breath slow. Let the night become your softness. Let all you have done and not done leave you, as gently as a coat shrugged off at the bedside. There is nothing left now but kindness and the holy act of waiting. He waited by the window. You may whisper to yourself, as Alan often did, all is well, all is well, all is well. The spoon clinked against the cup. The story ends here only to begin again with the next hush, the next breath, the next slow boiling of water, alone and together forever. He waited by the window, and that, tonight, is more than enough. Tonight, the sky outside is velvet, blue turned gentle by the soft hush